Hello and welcome back to another YouTube video. Today I'm going to be covering some of Senna's pairings. So if you enjoy my content, like and subscribe. We're almost at 300 and let's get into it. So the main thing I want to cover here is understanding the functions and strengths of each of them and why they are really strong at the moment and why Senna overall is just a really good champion to have within your comp and what her functions are. So Senna right now runs really well with the current fleet footwork. After they added the slow in compromise for getting rid of Glacial on her Q, she has been relatively decent. She received some buffs not too long ago, which helped her a lot. And overall, in time, she is really strong with her current pairings. So mainly just want to aim for fleet footwork, presence of mind, alacrity, cut down. All of these are really strong options on the Senna. Senna's really low HP, so cut down makes for a good option. Of course, you lose some of the value of this when you go things like Cleaver and Vigilant Wardstone, but by that point, your damage kind of compensates for losing a bit of the rune. And if you're into very tanky compositions, which there is a lot of HP within the game at the moment, it can still have a decent impact. For secondary runes, running magical footwear and approach is what I prefer running. I think they work quite nicely with each other. Running something like building Eclipse and then as you're finishing Eclipse, being able to carve into your Swifties quite nicely is really handy for the champion, and just the overall movement speed also really helpful. Biscuits do work as well if you want to opt into biscuits and approach velocity. You do want to go approach velocity. It helps with your soul collecting when you Q slow someone and then you can run up to them, collect the soul and then disengage from a fight. It also pairs quite nicely with Eclipse. You don't really want to be going Umbreglaive on Senna. This item's been kind of bait for a while on Senna, and then after the nerfs it became even more bait. I will always recommend Eclipse and then this itemization, as it helps Senna carve a lot better towards the mid to late game, where she can actually kind of fall off in like the 30 to 40 minute window if you're not collecting souls correctly, which is why you have to put a lot of focus on your passive souls. Running Flash, Heal, Barrier, Exhaust, all these options are quite nice. You kind of want to pick on what your ADC's running. For example, you don't really want two heals on the same team, so you'd go something like Barrier or Exhaust. If you can't really get any Exhaust range though, Barrier makes for a good option. But yeah, focus on passive souls, get a lot of them, and then once you hit the certain breakpoint, of course, you'll get lifesteal instead of crit. And overall, that just helps the champion scale quite nicely into mid to late. Eclipse and second item power spike are really strong. You definitely want to focus on getting things like Cleaver. And if they don't have a lot of armor for you to shred through, then RFC makes for a good second option as well. You do want Cleaver though. Your autos proc it twice, so it makes it really valuable as an option. Plus the stat line is also really nice for Senna. It is a really good item. The champ hat does have a weaker third and fourth item point when you're going something like RFC or an IE. You can kind of feel a bit weaker during these points. You can get blown up and your damage isn't as high as other marksmen at these points of the game. But if you're soul collecting, then you can kind of match them and then you will eventually outscale really late on into the game. Crits do less damage, but yeah, IE works as a really good option here. If you're preferring to go the damage route over Vigilant Wardstone, you can also ditch your support item at some points if you do want to opt into the IE, and the value of the support item is kind of mitigated by the losing the value of the support item is kind of mitigated by the fact that you are really needed as the DPS carry and stuff like that. So yeah, just keep that in mind whenever you're going towards the later parts of the build. First pairing I want to talk about is Seraphine. Seraphine is a really strong pairing of Senna. This might be her best pairing. Seraphine has really strong scaling, a good amount of utility. It provides Senna with a lot of room to be able to stack her souls, and the overall utility this champ brings with things like Rhyalize and just her kit in general is really powerful. So the runes, fairly standard: Airy, Mana Flow, Transcendence, Gathering, Magical Footwear. You can run Biscuits, but I wouldn't recommend it. Yeah, like if the lane's really hard, then yeah, Biscuits are an option. Cosmic Insight, and then you want CDR, adaptive and armor, or magic resist or health depending on lane. But CDR is really valuable on this champion. It's why you rarely see Seraphine's go anything but Lucidities. It also makes both the mythic options, Roa and Leandries, really nice because they both have mythic passives of CDR. Archangel is also quite nice. It has CDR within it, and it also helps with mana problems, so it can just allow you to skip the biscuits, and the mana from tier is overall all you need. Very strong scaling. Really curves quite nicely into the later parts of the game. Rhyalize, turning E into a root and then a stun if you're getting the double proc on it is also really valuable. Flash, Heal, Exhaust, TP, Ghost are all really good on Seraphine as well. Good team fight control. Roa and Leandries both work as strong mythic options. Less damage than a traditional mage, but more util and sustain, which makes it quite powerful. And R is a really valuable team fight tool. Just the CC it provides is really valuable towards the champion. The next champion I want to cover is Karthus. Karthus is a really good champ at the moment. I really wanted to, in bold, put up here, Karthus is not a late game scaling champion. Yes, he can function in the late game. If you're opting into things like Dark Harvest, and you're itemizing, and you're kind of playing around things which help with late game scaling, he can function late. But he is kind of deceptively a late game champion, when realistically, he's actually really strong in the early game. So make sure you're keeping that in mind. Karthus, of course, does still function in the late game. It's not like he suddenly becomes terrible, but he is a lot stronger early. It's a common misconception with the champion. For runes, Dark Harvest is significantly better than First Strike, especially if you're able to get the stacks. I would not recommend First Strike on Karthus, especially after the nerfs towards the rune. It can still function if you really want it, but definitely go Dark Harvest. Cheap Shot works quite nicely because of the slows within his kit and the slows and CC within Senna's kit. You can run Taste of Blood into like double poke lanes though, where you really, really value the sustain of the rune. Eyeball, Ultimate Hunter, pretty self-explanatory. Both these are really valuable. You can go Treasure Hunter if you want to, but I would recommend Ultimate Hunter. Your ult is a really valuable tool for securing kills. Presence of Mind, Last Stand, both really valuable on Karthus. Double Adaptive Armor, you can run Magic Resist, you can run Health. He scales quite well with Senna, obviously. Rune options, help his scaling because, yeah, like I was talking about earlier, Medjay's is a good buy if you're not trading lives. By that I mean, if you're trading 1-for-1, then I wouldn't recommend going Medjay's because you lose the value of the stacks whenever you die. But if you're just trading and you're securing kills but not trading lives, then Medjay's becomes really valuable. Has a really strong early and a really good 2-item power spike. Something like Liandry's Rhyalize, Liandry's Shadowflame, Liandry's Medjay's, Liandry's, Rabadon's, if you're really greeding for a second. All these are really, really strong on him. And yeah, you don't really want to run anything other than Flash Exhaust. Exhaust helps you hit Qs, lowers the damage they deal to you, and yeah, just that's kind of the value of the item. So Karthus, really strong pairing with Senna as well. Next one is Nyla. Nyla is probably the best marksman, quotation marks. She's less of a marksman, more of a bruiser kind of skirmisher. She does build like a marksman though, so she kind of falls into the same bracket as Yasuo, I guess, in that regard. But yeah, Ravenous is a really, really powerful item on Nyla at the moment. It makes her really strong. She doesn't fall off as hard as certain other champions, but she does have a stronger early. Ravenous completion really is where a lot of her strength lies. For runes, you are going to take Conqueror, Triumph, Alacrity. I wouldn't recommend Bloodline after the nerfs. Alacrity is probably better in this regard. Last Stand and Coup de Grace both do function well, though. Magical Footwear, Cosmic Insight, both good options. I can't remember the name of this rune for some reason off the top of my head. Sudden Impact, there we go, that's the one. And Treasure Hunter do work as well quite nicely if you're not wanting to go for Magical Footwear and Cosmic. And then you can run Double Adaptive, you can also run Attack Speed in the runes, and then yeah, the last one's Flex. Flash, Ghost, Heal, Exhaust, TP, Cleanse all function quite well on Nyla. You do mainly value the Flash though out of all of the summoner spells here. Ravenous completion is a big power spike. Shieldboat is a good mythic option on her. It would be the one I recommend second, but Prowlers and Gale Force provide good mobility. There are a couple of Prowlers rushes on Nyla. It can function quite well, and yeah, Gale Force kind of similar in the mobility. You just lose the shield value, but the crit is quite nice on Nyla. She has good crit scaling within her kit. Navori and IE are close options, Navori having a slight edge, and built-in armor pen can make LDR less needed because of the armor pen you get from your Q. It's quite valuable. So overall, those are the kind of thoughts from Nyla. Reasons why she's strong with Senna though. The passive where she has heal and shield bonuses towards both her allies, both her and her ally is really valuable, especially with a Senna. The XP share is also quite nice with a Senna as well. And just overall, the kits can synergize quite well in certain aspects. Tahm Kench is the most well-known tank pairing, I would say, with Senna. Then, of course, Cho'Gath being the next. Make sure you're running Guardian on Tahm Kench. I see a lot of people running Grasp or Aftershock. Guardian is almost always what you're going to want to be running. And then Shield Bash, Second Wind, or Bone Plating. Overgrowth, Revitalize, or Unflinching. The core is going to be Second Wind, though. because most bot laners are obviously going to be more poke heavy, and bone plating can quite easily be clipped off you. And then, yeah, overgrowth, really valuable rune, helps with scaling and just really valuable on tanks who build a decent amount of resists, increasing the overall value of the health of the champ. Triumph and Alacrity both work quite well. You can, of course, go Magical Footwear Cosmic. The minor runes, you want to go attack speed, and then you can run armor, magic resist, and then you want to run health primarily because you have health scalings within your kit, but armor, magic resist do work here as well. Ghost, TP, flash, ignite, flex all work on Tahm Kench. I do like the Ghost TP. It can allow for good chase, and it hurts a lot less when you lose. Well, you can TP for waves under tower. Flash Ignite if you want to play a bit more aggressive, but I think Ghost TP is probably his best summoner spell pairing. Heartsteel is good when ahead, but if behind, Flex, Radiant, or Sunfires, you become a lot less valuable as a champion if you fall behind on Tahm. So you want to make sure you're using your early game power and aggression with the Senna correctly, because if you do fall behind, then yeah, your champ becomes really, like, it functions a lot worse, and your ult becomes your only really redeeming factor, combined with like slows from Q. But yeah, if you're ahead though, he is really impactful, so make sure you're like, keeping ahead. Yeah, good safety net for Senna and gives the team a good front line. That is the main value of the Tahm. You can go Demonics when quite far ahead though. Demonics has good Tahm Kench has good AP scalings, which makes Demonics quite valuable as an item for him. Last but not least is Cho'Gath. This has been seeing a bit of play. Glacial is going to be his best keystone. You can run Spellbook, but I'd recommend Glacial over Spellbook. Footwear, or if you're going to be going Sonya's, perfectly timed is not a bad option. Futures Market, quite nice for powering for your Lost Chapter. You can run Biscuits though if you're opting not to go towards the Lost Chapter. And Approach or Cosmic Insight are his best in this slot. Approach probably is his best in general here though. Q being a slow, E being a slow, W being a CC, a soft form of CC, all has value, making Approach quite nice. Mana Flow, Transcendence is going to be your best for secondary. You can run Second Wind or Overgrowth. And then, as you don't need the adaptive, you can opt into CDR and double armor, double magic resist, armor, health. You can run the adaptive if you're looking to do more damage. But a couple points in Q, plus mana sustain, means that you don't really need the adaptive or the D-ring, which makes D-Shield quite valuable. Flash, Exhaust, or TP are the main summoner spells which you're going to want to run. You can pivot into tank if you're not able to use the Everfrost that well within the game, and if you have AP threats already. And Senna W combined with your damage can, at certain breakpoints, guarantee kills. It makes you quite valuable as a champion in that regard. Plus your scaling, plus the ult, and objectives, being able to secure objectives with that, all make him really powerful. Yeah, Everfrost, Demonics, really powerful item on him. He has a lot of health, and it's bonus, so it helps the item. And then Zhonya's, Rabadons, Gargles, Shadow Flame, Void all work quite nicely as options. Gargles and Frozen Heart better if you're going like the tank variation, but they do work with the AP variation as well. And those are the main pairings I really wanted to talk about. You can run it with a Swain or a Veigar. So Veigar being changed in the way he functions next patch though is why I haven't included him here. He would be up there as one of the better ones though, definitely. Works quite nicely with as like an AP option. And yeah, Swain also works as like a team fight overall mage. So if you want to run that as an option, you can. But these are the main ones. So thank you guys for watching. Try some of these out. You'll probably gain some free LP through this. So yeah, try it out.